Welcome everybody, welcome back to another show of Beyond Haunted Vermont. Now, once again, I had the pleasure of talking with returning guest, Dale Kaczmarek, and originally this was supposed to be about a conversation regarding Dogman, because Dale had experienced and investigated the Bray Road incident area, I should say. And anyway, he talked about it. But I just wanted to do this intro because I don't know what's been going on, but people have just been diving right into the conversation. It's like they're willing to just chat about it right away, which I'm so glad I've been having to record and write on it, because it's just been incredible lately. But anyway, I'm trying not to blab on anymore, but yeah, I just needed some sort of introduction to this besides just making it seem like we're just going right into it, I guess. So anyway, without further ado, this is returning guest Dale Kaczmarek. Dale, thank you so much for joining me, and we'll start talking about what it is that we wanted to discuss. Before I begin, too, thank you for your last minute thing. I was not expecting you to just kind of say like, "Oh yeah, I can do this tonight." I was like, "Oh crap."
Yeah, but in this weather, I mean, if I'm not going anywhere, I'm just at home anyway. So,
hey, that's fair, man. That's fair. I mean, gives you something to do, I guess. That way, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what else you would be doing, I guess, other things. I did pull up on your website your Beast of Bray Road. I was actually looking to see maybe if you went to like Land of the Lakes or Land Between the Lakes, sorry. And then I know there's one in Louisiana, the Rougarou. I was thinking about that one. And then I know there was one other one, but I know Michigan, but I didn't see anything else regarding Dogman per se.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the only thing that I came across that was even slightly, close to that being a cryptid was in Indiana. There was a meet and greet down there a few years back. I'm trying to think of the name of the town. But they had an open air meet and greet. You brought your own tents, all your stuff and so forth. And then they had like 3 small cemeteries that basically had no stones. This used to be a cemetery, this used to be a cemetery, etc. And what happened is that the woman that was in charge of this
the area, the land.
I just can't remember it'll come to me. Goshen, Indiana. Goshen, Goshen.
Okay.
And, she was in charge of it, and she also lived like a few hundred feet off where this property was. I guess it was her property, and she had told us and that she could go out and she could look out her back door almost every freaking night and see some weird, beastie, cryptid, bipedal, black shaped furry walking around her property. And I said, you know what I said to her? I said, if it's every night, why don't you have cameras out there? Why don't you have trail cams? Why don't you have Ring doorbell cameras? I mean, anything, set up a camera. And she didn't answer that question. She didn't know why. But I mean, I know that Mary Marshall has done a lot of stuff with cryptids, and especially places in Wisconsin with her partner. And I'm terrible with names, unfortunately.
Me too. I'm good with faces more, to be honest.
And they've actually went out there and they've had some experiences out in the North Woods up there too. But our experiences were really crazy. I think when we did our Bray Road investigation. If you want me to just kind of tell you a little bit about it right now, or did you have? do something first, or?
Yeah, we can jump in it in a minute. I'm actually trying to look for something since my cat is now trying to get my attention for something.
Yeah,
But
I see.
yeah. Oh, that's what I was gonna ask you real quick. Did you want? This was just out of curiosity. Um, did you want this to be like a video presentation? Did you have anything like images or anything? I did read at the bottom that unfortunately this thermal image and stuff
Yeah.
can't seem to find. So I was like, oh no.
And that's funny because I am so, I'm so protective of what we shoot, pictures, audio, video. I mean, cataloged. I mean, I have it on my hard drive, and I have 3 backups. I have a 1 terabyte, a 2 terabyte, and an 8 terabyte, and it's on all 3 of them. And darn if I can't figure out where it went to.
I hate when that happens.
It was the most unusual thing. We can get into that story in a bit, but I mean, yeah, if you want to do a video, I mean, I might have some images. I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find the images. I think you requested them of
the portal
that basically stopped in the middle of the field. Now, yes. I thought I had those in my collection. I don't, but I know who has them, and he'll be happy to share them with me. It's Joe Caravello, and he does a podcast called The Insane Asylum.
Never heard of that one.
Sometimes it was called the Joe and Mark Show. I think it started with the Mark and Joe Show. It went to Insane Asylum, and I think it might even be something else right now. I've been on his show like dozens of times. So,
okay.
He had gotten these images from Lee Hampel, who's actually in charge of the Bray Road property. I mean, his barn, his farm, he owns all that.
Is that the one that you went to?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the Beast of Bray Road thing. And, basically, he gave us permission to be out there all night if we wanted. And so, I mean, but we had some unusual experiences. And then before he kind of left us, he dug out this picture album, and he was showing us all these pictures. Now, I have some of them, some like plaster casts that were taken out there. But the one with the footprints, which I thought was just amazing, because it was a snow shrouded field. I mean, literally nobody had been out there. Not even a deer had been out there yet. I mean, it was pristine. And all of a sudden, you see, he went out there. I forget what he went out there for. I guess he checks his property line every now and then, because he's had a lot of deer that have been kind of slaughtered out there and killed. And he's thinking that this beast is doing it, picking up these 150 pound, 200 pound animals and dragging them to the edge of the property. And he went out there one morning after the snow, so he was making his own footprints, and he came across a set of footprints that basically, I'm trying to think now if it started somewhere, but the way it ended up in the middle of the field, and all of a sudden there were no more footprints. And there was no indication that they had turned around and went right back over their footprints again, because their footprints in the snow were pristine. So it's like this beast or whatever it was came from the edge of the property, came to I don't know exactly how many feet. I could figure it out, probably 10, 20, 30 feet off the property line. And all of a sudden the footprints stop. So what does that indicate? Does it indicate that that this is a interdimensional doorway, a portal that he's
going back to like your portal haunted from the first time?
Disappeared? Was it an alien type thing? Was it UFO related? Did a UFO come down, and maybe these beasts, maybe they're more intelligent than we give them credit for. Maybe they're the ones that are piloting these UAPs. Maybe it came down, or maybe just the UAP abducted it. Who knows? But there's been other sightings since those footprints. So, I mean, I kind of like to go with the portal theory, because I've investigated a lot of locations around the country that I believe are portal places. One being the Joplin Spook Light in Joplin, Missouri. Another one being Bachelor's Grove Cemetery. I think we talked about that in the past. there's a place in the Pine Barrens called used to be a town called Dudleyville or Dudleytown, I think it's called, and that's a portal area. Of course, you got the Jersey Devil out there, and then you even got Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where the Mothman was,
and that's what we mentioned too.
We were at all these places except the one in the Pine Barrens, because I believe it's in New Jersey. And which is a really strange place to begin with. I mean, it's just hundreds and hundreds of acres of pristine, undisturbed, of wilderness, and you could literally get lost in that place if you didn't have a compass or something to tell you which way to go. But I think I can get a hold of those pictures pretty easily. I just have to talk to my friend Joe. He'll probably send them to me. I know he took pictures of them as well. There may be another avenue to get them as well that I can get them for the show, because I think that would be something you'd really like to see.
Well, I know I always use that example because I remember, I think either I seen it or something. I don't remember. I can't even remember how I knew about that example, but I always remembered it.
It was in her website, basically. Maybe it was from there, or maybe it heard something. But I mean, Lee's got these great pictures. I mean, tell you, of slaughtered deer, and then footprints, and all crazy stuff on his property. I mean, to me, it's got to be like a portal area.
That would make sense. Yeah.
I gave a talk a couple years ago on a PowerPoint presentation called Portal Hauntings. And we went over those places, including there was a place in Michigan around, I'm trying to think if it was Grand Rapids or Detroit. It was more of a lesser of an urban area. It wasn't a big town, city like Detroit. But they had what they call a kind of a UFO flap. And I don't know if people understand what a flap is, but a flap is a series of UFO encounters over a very short period of time, sometimes seen by hundreds of people, and in some cases even police officers and public officials, which you put a little bit more faith into those sightings, because what do they got to lose? I mean, they're not lying about what they saw. But this was back, I think, in the 1940s, I believe. This might have been right after Roswell, New Mexico, and they had these series of strange lights in the sky they were seeing all over the place. But the weird part about it is, at the same time this was going on, there was a big uptick in Bigfoot sightings, cryptids, poltergeist phenomena, and hauntings, all taking place in that same area. And to me, that's like, again, like a doorway opening up, having all this stuff come into our realm, basically. Kind of, there's nothing scary. I mean, to me, it's not scary. For other people, ghosts and stuff like that would be pretty scary stuff. And then kind of like be around for, say, a week or so, and then, bam, nothing. Everything stops. All the hauntings, all the poltergeists, the cryptids, the UFO, everything stopped. What happened? Did they go through that doorway again? I mean, to me, that places like that are just absolutely strange. And when I was at Joplin, Missouri, I don't know if I told you this story, but basically, I had basically some experiences there that I'll never forget. I kind of walked into what John Keel, if you remember John Keel, he wrote the Mothman Prophecies.
Oh, the Zone of Fear.
Zone of Fear. And I experienced that several times over there at Joplin, Missouri. And the last 2 times I was there, nothing. No feeling, no equipment fluctuations, nothing, no anxiety attacks. John Keel experienced that over near the TNT factory in Point Pleasant, West Virginia back in the 60s, I think 66. And he said that he literally walked into something that made him kind of that fight or flight response. You're going to fight or you're going to flee. And he got such an anxiety attack, he kind of stepped a few steps out of it, perfectly fine. And he's looking around. high tension wires. What's causing this? He's trying to figure this out. Walks back into it again and gets overcome. And I'm getting goosebumps telling you the story because it happened to me. Overcome by this anxiety, this dread, this depression, whatever you want to call it, just really strange, odd feeling. Walked back out of it, and he couldn't figure it out. So eventually he went back to his hotel, came back the next day, walked around there, nothing. There was absolutely nothing the second day. Just like when we went back to Joplin, every single time since, nothing there. What happened?
Right.
It's strange.
Huh. Yeah, I mean, I know last time we were talking, we kind of mentioned like maybe the environment had changed or something had been taken out, kind of like, with the railroad tracks and stuff like that. I remember that. So, yeah, so that would explain maybe an environmental change. Yeah, I totally agree with you on that, though.
Well, there's a very famous ghost light story. I know we're kind of drifting a little bit here, but the Mako light in North Carolina, Joe Baldwin's light. The guy supposedly was a conductor. The train came uncoupled one of the cars. He's trying to frantically tell the other train to stop. That's coming on the same track and plows into the guy. Supposedly becomes decapitated and dies. And soon after that, people begin seeing this light swinging back and forth across the railroad tracks. Now, I was out there after the train tracks were gone. Okay, they tore the train tracks up, but I was able to find two actual railroad spikes, very, very rusty railroad spikes, apparently from the original train tracks, which are now in my collection. Nice. And people don't see the light anymore because the environment has been changed. The train tracks are not there. I mean, that light was actually seen by President of the United States, Grover Cleveland. He was going through the area, and he happened to be in the caboose or the presidential car, whatever you want to call it. Kind of looked on the train tracks, and he says, "What is that? What's that strange light down there?" And when the conductor said, "Oh, don't worry, Mr. President, it's just Joe Baldwin's light."
Yep.
And that's a true story. I mean, it's strange. I mean,
didn't he write that down too? Somewhere, like I don't know if he had like a journal or something, but didn't he write it down?
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
I
mean, that was common knowledge. I mean, Jimmy Carter's actually had, he was an Air Force pilot, I believe, former president. He actually made a UFO report that he saw something in Georgia, near Plains, Georgia, where he lived. So, I mean, a lot of people that I would consider to be reputable and beyond reproach have actually had encounters with these things, whether they're UFOs or flaps or dogmen or whatever. There were a lot of sightings of supposedly kind of like a almost like a Mothman type creature in Chicago during the last several years or so. And my good friend Sam Moranto, he is the Illinois director of MUFON, a Mutual UFO Network. And he did a very nice presentation about that. And he actually had some of those pictures that people had sent him. And he was able to debunk them, most of them, by saying they were just kites that were in the air that kind of looked strange, And I don't think he had one single actual report that he could actually say was concrete. And there was a lot of a mysticism, I guess, with these stories that people had seen these things moving around, but they were really high up in the air. They weren't down on the ground. They didn't have the glowing red eyes like the Mothman did, and the big giant 10-foot wingspan or something like that. And I've seen some of those pictures myself, and I kind of agree that most of them have a natural explanation.
Right, and most things do, honestly, to be fair, especially nowadays. Like, I forget if I mentioned it the last time we talked, Dale, but like at the time, this had to have been. I don't think I mentioned it because I think this was actually when we figured it out that it was in fact a drone. But anyway, before our fair came into play in August, we had this weird light show up, pretty much like 9 minutes for me. And but it kind of was very bright and only stayed in one certain place before it, like, quote, disappeared. But that's all I could really get. But people thought it was something else because obviously, it was just like it kind of just came out of nowhere. And plus, if you go down the street, which I actually did that night, it's very dark over there. There's like maybe one street light, but the rest is all complete pitch black. Yeah. And if you look at where it should have been, there's no way in hell it was like a street light or anything like that. So you can totally take that away from the equation. But then what's left to me is, well, could it have been something unidentifiable, or was it a drone? So come to find out, it came back 5 days later in the same place, but this time it was not as bright, had a different color. It wasn't like red like it was in the original video. But I reached out to my friend who was a cop, and I said, hey, by chance you guys aren't like, using drones or anything to patrol an area or whatever you guys call it? And then he's like, I'll get back to you on that. And then I found out later on that yes, they were around my area. So I assumed it's a drone.
Yeah, I think I heard that story. It was either this story or a very similar story where these lights were showing up. Now, I wish I could remember, but they were showing up every night for several nights in a row. And the government was even kind of brought into this idea because they wanted to see about the Air Force. Was the Air Force flying something about that time? Were they dropping military flares or something in the air? It was like a formation, and they thought at first that they could have been just commercial drones that people were flying, trying to freak people out or something. But they never were able to positively identify these lights, and they took place for several days in a row in the same location. And I'm wondering if that's what you're describing there, or if there was another one. There may have been more than one of these sightings in different parts of the country. But yeah, I found that to be fascinating because the government was actually kind of brought in and kind of being questioned about it. I mean, what's going on? I mean, they even have.
Oh, was that around December of 2024 when all these mysterious drones or whatever were showing up? Yeah.
That wasn't in Vermont then, but this was probably another part of the country, I think.
Oh, it was all over because I thought these strange things.
They were in New York. They were in New Jersey. They were mostly on the East Coast, if I remember correctly, and
some on the West because they claim that they could watch the drone lights, whatever people were calling them, that they were coming into, I think it was California or Oregon, one or the other, by the ocean. And then that's where they were also disappearing to after etc. amount of hours that they were stationary watching.
Yeah, they were calling them USOs, underwater submerged objects, for lack of a better term. But now the catch-all phrase is UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena. I like the UFO because the UFO always just kind of indicated that it's a flying object that's unidentified. It doesn't mean it's an alien thing. It doesn't mean it's coming out of a portal. It's just something that we can't identify at present. There may be radar tracking for some of these, objects. Sometimes not. Sometimes they scramble jets after them. The famous, the very famous what they call the Tic Tac video.
Yes.
The little, looks like a little white Tic Tac that was actually tracked by F-16 fighter pilots, I believe, or F-18 fighter pilots, and they said that this thing was doing acrobatics that would have basically put most of the Air Force pilots, they would have passed up from the G-force. They wouldn't have been able to to take that kind of G's, and they were like, I don't forget how many G's it was, but it was a lot. And so I mean, all this strange stuff. I mean, can you all lump it together? In some cases, I think you can, especially in areas that we call flaps, where there's a multitude of different things going on at the same time. What's causing it? And then all of a sudden, for everything to stop, just completely stop. And even in the drone thing, you don't see, they're not even in the news anymore. They're gone. They just stopped. What happened? I mean, was it just people playing pranks? Was there real drones out there? Being at nighttime, you can't get a really good picture unless you're up there with an F-18 and you got night shot radar, and that should be night shot cameras, and then you can get an image. But most people, all they're going to see is just lights in a black sky, because it's just too far away to get a good picture. But some of these other places, I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, we spent a couple of days actually in Point Pleasant, West Virginia, when we were out there, going past the TNT factory. We actually met Jeff Wamsley, I believe his name is. That he's kind of the local expert out there. He actually wrote a book on the Mothman, which I have a copy of. I think I had it autographed. I'm not quite sure, but I met the guy, and he still takes tours out there. He just has kind of just follow me. Caravan your cars out there, and he'll stop and he'll say, this is some of the old what they call the munitions bunkers, the TNT factory. And I guess you can go on. There's not private property, and this is where some of the initial sightings were of this big, huge, kind of 7-8 foot tall, maybe even bigger Mothman with the red glowing eyes was seen. And actually following and chasing cars doing 50, 60, 70 miles an hour. They tried to kind of pawn it off as being an owl or something like that, which, they got big eyes, but I don't know if they glow red. I mean, if you hit them with your car headlights, then you got that, what they call it reflects off the retina. And that's why some pictures that you take, they have red eyes.
The eye shine then. Right.
Yeah. And you can actually, there's ways that you can actually set up your camera that you won't get the red eye effect. But I mean, to say it was an owl, I mean, no, I don't buy that. What it is, I don't know. It just may be some weird cryptid, just like Bigfoot. Bigfoot. A lot of people say it might be the missing link, between. Us and the apes. They had one they used to call. See if I can get it. I think it's called Gigantopithecus.
That's not the skeleton, right? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm not exactly. I might not be pronouncing it exactly right, but it's a huge thing. I mean, it's much. I mean. You get some of the early man, the Cro-Magnon man, the Neanderthal, and so forth, and you see that they started off. If you believe that the evolution, that's how it happened, that we evolved from apes. That they are all the apes that you see are always kind of like slouched over, and as it became more towards human, we started to stand more erect. But this huge thing is instead of going from small to human size, this thing is small, large, and then back to human size. It's like a missing link between us and the apes, which at least that's what they say. I mean, there's some scientific studies that have been done on bones and remains, fossilized remains of some of these creatures. Maybe this was what David fought, the giant in biblical terms when he basically. Hit him with a slingshot and knocked him down and killed him or something, slayed him. But there are many reports of going into like what I kind of call Fortean stuff, Charles Fort, of giant creatures and so forth. Some of them were proven to be hoaxes, obviously. nobody's ever got a Bigfoot body, a true Bigfoot body. There have been some hoaxes on that too. And that's interesting. Why? I mean, eventually these creatures are going to die. They might have a long lifespan, but they're going to die. So what happens to them? I mean, do other creatures bury them? I mean, are they that intelligent? Or, like, if you remember the movie Predator, where they had damaged that one really bad. The UFO came down and they took them away and they whisked them away. Is that what happens, or do they go through a portal? Because you would think you would find bodies, some sort. I mean, besides just footprints, you would find bodies, but yet you don't.
Right. Yeah. Well, oh God, I'm gonna butcher it. I know I am, but I know a lot of people question that original body that was going around for show before whatever happened to it, like disappeared, was the original Iceman one. Yeah, but that was about it, because I know I heard somewhere that these people went and actually saw this while it was like going around on the show, the original anyway, and they were questioning that body for sure, if it was actually real or fake. But then when it disappeared and this second body came in, they said it was completely different. It wasn't at all like the original body. The Iceman. Oh my God! Yeah, I'll have to try to find that one.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a very wide interest, as you could probably tell. I mean, it's not just
totally.
Some poltergeists. I mean, I like anything that's just unexplained. UFOs, Bigfoot, Dogman, portals, places like that. I've been to so many, and in some cases we've gotten good evidence. In some cases we've seen things with our own eyes, photographs, recordings, things of that nature. Even though some of them disappear, which I found really strange, I still am looking for that footage. I mean, basically what we were doing is Lee had taken us basically on a hayride during the daytime hours on his tractor, and it showed us around and showed that this is where this happened, this is where the footprints were, this is where some of the carcasses from the animals were found, and so forth. And then he just let us do our thing. And as it began to get dark, we took a walk along the edge of the property, and there was a cornfield on the left, and then basically all flatland to the right. And further back there was like a little stream or something. So we were walking in that direction, and it was it was summertime, so it was still really nice out. It was a little bit humid, but it was still really, really nice out. And we're walking down this it looks like a trail of some kind. And all of a sudden, to the left-hand side, we walked into some of the most intensely cold area I've ever felt. I mean, it was like walking into a freezer. I mean, we got chills, and we were kind of doing a brisk pace because we wanted to get to where we were going. So we kind of right through it. Whoa, wait a second. Let's go back and figure this out. And we're standing here and go, why is that cold right there and nowhere else? So I said, well, let's keep an eye on that area, and we're going to try to, set some cameras up and some equipment over there and see if anything shows up. So I had a FLIR device that actually hooks onto your cell phone, and it has what I believe is called the wink effect. Well, anyway, it attaches onto your camera, goes into one of your ports on your camera, and it actually will show up and you can record. It's a cheap way of having basically a FLIR or a thermal camera, forward-looking infrared. So I'm filming over there, and all of a sudden, right where we had experienced that cold spot, something comes out of the cornfield. Literally, it's walking on two legs, and it's a bipedal. And quickly I called Joe over and I said, tell me what you see. I didn't say I saw something. Tell me what you see over here. Is there anything here? What the hell's that? What's walking out of the cornfield? And we're maybe 50, 60 feet away. I mean, pretty close. And so I'm recording it. So I had brought this 2 million candle power spotlight. I mean, you can see it from 10 miles away almost. And it was battery operated. So at the same time I'm recording, I took this spotlight and I shined it over there. And there's nothing there, but it's still being recorded on the flare, which is really weird. So how do you explain that? I mean, we're getting an image that looks like it's got body heat. So I thought initially when you see something that's red or white, that's very, very hot, it's either a human or it's an animal. Well, this wasn't either, because this was a furry thing, kind of like a bipedal thing. I mean, it didn't look, I mean, it was nowhere close to being a Bigfoot size. I mean, it was probably maybe 6.5 feet tall at tops. I would estimate maybe 170, 180 pounds. And, but walking on two legs. And the front legs are kind of like just like hanging like this, and it just seemed to walk out of there, and then it just wasn't there. It didn't walk back into the field. It just vanished. It wasn't there anymore. And my friend Joe, you did record that, didn't you? I said, yeah. We played it back, and we were watching this stuff. I get back to here to Illinois, and darn if I can't find it. I mean, it was on the camera, and the camera saves it, and then you hook it up to USB, and then you can put it on your computer, your desktop, or something. And I'm still now. I mean, there is a distinct possibility that I might have put it into a wrong folder. Now, I don't know if you've ever seen my collection of haunted locations. It numbers in the tens of thousands. So I got little folders for every single place that we've been to, and some place that we've never been to. So, I mean, I need to go through one day and just literally go to every single one of those, and I might find it. Because normally when I get something, even if it's nothing, if we were recording a flare and nothing showed up, I would have saved that video. I would have saved it somewhere, maybe not necessarily on a hard drive. I might have put it on like on an SD card to save some hard drive space, or I might have burned it onto a DVD or something like that. But pictures, audio, anything like that. I mean, we have a procedure of how we go about cataloging, examining, retrieving, and saving stuff. And for me to lose something that was such an amazing capture, I can't believe I did that. I mean, I hope it's still somewhere I can find it.
So you did as a phone, right? It wasn't like a camcorder, so it wouldn't be like an SD card or anything like that, right?
Well, I believe it saved it directly to the phone in a file somewhere, and I checked the entire phone for that. I went through all the different folders, subfolders, subfolders where it might have dropped itself. I mean, it still might be on my phone. I mean, I got so many folders I need to go through, and I need to just delete some of them. Or it's in a folder that I didn't mean it to go to on my desktop, or hopefully not, I erased it by mistake or dumped it. I don't know which one. I'm hoping I can find it, because Joe and Mark were both there. They were the two that kind of like the twosome that were always on that Insane Asylum podcast. And they both saw it, not necessarily live. No, Joe saw it when I was recording it, but Mark was way at the other end of the field. I don't know, he wandered off by himself somewhere doing something down there. because he said he saw something down there, and it was way too far for our cameras to reach. I mean, even with night shot, there's limitations how far you can actually see. And we had brought these huge infrared illuminators that I had gotten that they will illuminate the length of a football field, which is 100 yards, 300 feet, which is amazing. But this field was even bigger than that. I mean, this field might have been maybe almost an acre. And there's no way you're going to, videotape that unless we were putting up, trail cams all over the place and hoping that something would show up and break the passive infrared motion sensor and start the camera either recording or taking pictures. But I don't know if this is something you want to include in the show, but I will say that it's for people that want to go there now, you have to pay to go there. We had went there, and Joe and Mark were close friends with Lee, and he always said, anytime you want to come out, come on out, no problem, just let me know. The last time we tried to go out there, he's charging so much per person, so many people. I mean, I guess it's the way to make money. I mean, most everybody does it. You go to any haunted venue nowadays, and basically they're charging something. If you want to investigate it, you got to pay. I always say pay to play.
Right. Yeah. No. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's a farmland. It's a huge farmland, and I mean, you gotta kind of make back what you aren't making when it comes to the farm product not selling or growing. Because I mean, we all have our downside of everything when it comes to work related stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, I think part of the reason too, I understand that Joel had told me, was that there were Lee was getting kind of upset because a lot of people were trespassing on the property. They were coming up, and they were, all they would have had to do was pretty much go up to Lee and say, "Hey, we're part of a group. We're going to spend a couple hours." And he would have said, "Yeah, go right ahead." But when you basically, and like I say, Lee. I don't, maybe not to this day. Maybe he still does. He's got these trail cams all over the place, and he knows that somebody's walking around the property and so forth. And it's not so much that he doesn't mind people coming out there, but I mean, it's just common courtesy to say, "Hey, can we spend a few hours out here or something after dark?" And back then Lee would have said, "Yeah, fine." So I mean, it just takes a couple of rotten apples to spoil the bunch, and
we get it
now and occasionally too.
Yeah, that sucks. Yeah, I totally understand that when it comes to all it takes is a couple rotten apples to ruin it for everybody. There's a couple places around here that definitely had that happen, and I don't know.
I remember before I left. Because Joe and Mark, they live in Wisconsin, or southern Wisconsin, somewhere. I can't remember the town, but I said, "Well, I'm going to take off then, but I'm going to put my camcorder, my night shot camcorder, on my dash, and I'm going to drive back and forth a couple of times along Bray Road, and just see if anything happens to pop up and run across, the street there." And I went all the way to where the main street, turned around and went back, and there was nothing. And then I also reviewed it. Now that video I have, but that video shows nothing except kind of a spooky drive down a really dark street. And I got the high beams on, and basically with the night shot you can see very clearly, probably 15 feet or more. But nothing was running across. And I said, "Oh, too bad." I mean, there have been reports, of this thing, whatever it is, running across the road on 2 feet, and then people will get a glimpse of it. Now, there have been some people, some artists that have kind of drew what they thought the depiction of this thing was, and it looks like it's a mouthful of teeth and all that stuff like that. And I'm sure that's not what it was. They probably took. You've always heard the term poetic license. They can do poetic license with their drawings as well, and make it a little more scary than it probably really is. What it looks like to most people is literally a wolf or a wild dog of some kind walking on 2 feet. Now, you can train some of your dogs to walk around and, do that and walk around a little bit and they beg, but they can't do it for a long time because they don't have the balance. This thing just walked across the road, in some cases ran across the road like a human being. And it would have been great to see. Now, people can still drive down Bray Road. It's not a private road or anything. It's a public, blacktop road. And, you might get something. You never know. I mean, it's same thing. There's a place here in northern Illinois called Blood Point Road, where
good name.
Yeah, and they used to have signs that spelled it out, Blood Point Road, but people started stealing the signs because they wanted Blood Point, so they made it BP Road. Said Blood Point. They didn't spell it out, and then those signs have never been taken. Nobody's ever taken those signs. But there's been all kind of activity along there. That's almost kind of almost a mini portal area. You travel over this bridge. There's a railroad track underneath there. Supposedly people see, like a train wreck, or they see apparitions down there. As you get further down, people said that they see things running across the road. So it's very similar to like the Beast of Bray Road, but not quite as famous. And there's a cemetery at the very end of this road before it comes to a T, and you got to go left or right, where they got these bright lights on the cemetery all night because of a few idiots, trespassing in there, spray painting, graffiti, knocking over stones, crap like that, ruining for everybody else. And then you got big bold signs: no trespassing, violators will be prosecuted, et cetera, et cetera. I drove up there again. I did the same thing. I put the camcorder on my dash, and I drove up and down there a couple times. I didn't really see anything. I mean, that might be more of an urban legend than anything else, because this is where you got to draw the line between what's real and what's basically either imaginary or been handed down from generation to generation. And a lot of these folk tales and urban legends are just that. They're things that somebody started way back in time, and then as the years progressed, people began to spice it up, adding a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more, until now the story doesn't resemble the original story that much.
Yeah, well, because everybody wants to be part of it. Unfortunately,
Absolutely.
that's just what it becomes. I know that feeling as well, where there's we have a crybaby bridge here, like Emily's Bridge, where everybody wants to be part of that story.
Is that the one near Stowe?
Yes.
Yeah. I would love to get up there one day, but it's such a trip from Illinois to go way up there to New England. Because I have a friend that lives in Maine. He's a cryptozoologist. Oh darn, I can't remember his name. He's gonna hate me for that. Lauren Coleman.
Ah, yes.
And he's got a cryptozoology museum up there. I would love to see. Now, years ago, I went up to Monroe, Connecticut, which is as far as I got up to New England. And they have that's where Ed and Lorraine Warren's museum used to be.
Museum, yep.
And that was their headquarters. And then sort of John Zaffis, which is, I guess, his John Zaffis was a nephew to Ed and Lorraine Warren, kind of took over the museum. But there's a very famous story of this cemetery out there, Monroe, I think it's called Monroe Cemetery, of a lady in white that's been seen walking down the road and everything. This looks like a little tiny little like a chapel building. There's no fence; it's just a wide open, and people flock there all the time trying to see this hitchhiking ghost or cemetery lady that they see around that area. Now, I was there at night; I didn't see anything, but it's always just being at the right place at the right time. You don't always. There might be a lot of rumors. There might be a lot of credible witnesses that come forth. You're trying to see it for yourself. Well, there at the right time, you'll see it. But I didn't go in the museum because I just felt that that was a bit too negative for me, because there's been a lot of things that they brought, like some of the Annabelle doll and a few other really strange things from some of their investigations that are in the museum. Supposedly they're like in bell jars, and they got salt around them. They did some ritual to keep whatever's in there, and they got signs, "Don't touch the dolls." So I said, first of all, it wasn't even open. But second of all, I don't know if I would have wanted to go in there. Just like I don't think I'd want to go into Zach Vega's museum over there in Las Vegas. I think he's got a lot of really strange stuff. He got the Kevorkian minivan where he assisted suicide people. He's got the van in there. Stuff like that is just really crazy. But I went up to Salem, Massachusetts, also, and Philadelphia. We wanted to see the Liberty Bell, kind of like tourist trap stuff. But there were places in Salem, Massachusetts that are very, very haunted because of the witchcraft trials of the 1690s and everything. Went into the Witch Museum and some other buildings, and just, the old burying ground.
Did you happen to go to the House of the Seven Gables while at Salem?
Yeah, we saw that too as well. We also saw the location where Corey, first name was Corey. I can't think of his last name. He was the guy that was convicted, or at least was suspected of being a witch, and they put a board on him, and they started to put more and more stones until he finally just he died. And I tell you, that isn't a guy that's haunting the area, because that was a slow, painful death. It wasn't like most of the people were hanged. If you go in Hollywood, they'll say that they burned them at the stake, but really they didn't do that. Most of them were hanged, literally,
or the dunking chair, or
that was the stupidest thing I ever heard. The dunking chair. They would strap somebody in there, and they would dunk you in this this lake. If you came out, you were a witch, and they killed you. If you didn't come out, well, you just drowned. So that was really, really, really stupid. They had some really strange ways. They were very, very highly religious people, Puritans and Quakers, and maybe even some offshoots from the Pilgrims themselves.
Right.
The Inquisitions were just something. You could just point to somebody, hey, this person is a witch, and then you find yourself in front of the Inquisitor, and then you're in deep, deep, what.
Well, that's what Abigail Williams did. The little girl, she did that. She was pointing at everybody, just because she could. I guess. Right. I mean, I don't know what else. She was just a little nasty little girl. But Giles, if I'm saying it right, Giles Corey is the one who was stoned to death. Yeah. I wanted to double check the name myself, because that would have gone to bug me otherwise. I cannot find that book though that I was thinking about though for the Iceman one. So whatever. I can't seem to find it right now.
Okay. You got my book I sent you, though, right?
Correct. Yep. Illuminating the Darkness. Yep. Okay. Right. In my pile over there, not even by me. Yeah. So thank you for that.
No, absolutely. I have enough material if I really wanted to do Illuminating the Darkness #2, because since that time I've come across a lot of other locations where spook lights have been seen.
We have some here, apparently.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. But there's so many I still want to visit. The one that's really bugging me. I really want to go to is the Marfa Lights in Texas, and they're
Okay.
very famous. I mean, they're the closest big town is El Paso, so you're talking West Texas. So you're talking a long way if you do it on if you take a trip on a car. That would be maybe a good day and a half or more to get there, just of driving, and a day and a half to get back. But I don't know if you're familiar with the Marfa Lights, but basically they're on the Mitchell Flats. They face these, what they call I might be pronouncing it correctly, the El Chianti mountain range. And they actually have a viewing building set up. There's it looks like a little adobe hut made of concrete or probably not concrete, probably like granite blocks. And they have a nice viewing area in the front. So, I mean, and they got a roof. So if it's raining, you don't get wet. And you can sit out there all night. There's no, they don't worry about you trespassing at night, because perfect place to set up cameras if you wanted to investigate it. The thing they tell you not to do is to go out of the building and onto the Mitchell Flats, because there's a lot of rattlesnakes out there. And rattlesnakes, they might come to the surface, or they might try to get, because they're cold-blooded creatures, they want to get to where it's warm.
Yep.
And you might step on one. I mean, most likely, if they see you, they're going to run away. They're more afraid of you than you are of them, pretty much. But why take the chance? And I mean, that place was investigated by the National Geographic. They actually came out there. I got a video documentary of all these big scientists, not any big names or anything, but they're all technical people, for astronomy, through mathematics, through whatever equipment they brought out there. I mean, they were they had all these cameras set up, and they did film things on the mountain range. But again, if I was going to do that and I could get permission, what I would have done is I would have tried to get the road closed that goes through the mountains, so you're not accidentally photographing car headlights going through there. But they didn't do that. They left it open, so some of those lights that they see could very well look like spook lights, but they're probably car headlights. And that the proper way would have been to try to close the road down. And that way, anything you saw out there would have had to been something to scratch your head and say what's causing it, because there's no cars going there anymore. But their investigation was kind of inconclusive. They really didn't come up with an explanation. I mean, people have actually seen, there are eyewitness reports of people actually seeing these spook lights literally rolling down the Mitchell Flats, kind of sending off like sparks and fire and flames and so forth. Sometimes they elevate 3, 4, 5 feet off the ground, multiple lights changing colors. I have a very good photograph that I could share with you too, of a friend of mine who actually was out there and photographed these lights, and he made a production out of it. The best picture he put into an 8x10, full color, and had some description in the bottom where he was, what time, temperature, et cetera, et cetera.
Oh, wow.
And it's one of the best images I've seen of the spook lights out there. So whatever they are, I mean, that's one place I'd like to go. There's also a very interesting place in Silver Cliff, Colorado. There's a cemetery out there where blue ghost lights have been seen kind of bobbing through the cemetery. And this is in the middle of nowhere, basically on kind of a very rural road. The cemetery's got a gate around it. I mean, you don't go in the cemetery. You can just sit in your car off the side of the road and you can watch these lights sometimes bouncing around inside there. There's a very famous lights in California called the Oriflame lights that I would like to see. And there are some that, I need to investigate a bit further. There was one out there in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, where it was, again, along a set of railroad tracks. And when I went there, I couldn't find it. I couldn't actually find the actual viewing location. So, what you do, you go up to a police officer, right? You say, you kind of introduce yourself. You say, I'm looking for the area where these spook lights have been seen. He says, I'll show you exactly where they're seen, but if I find that you're on the railroad tracks, I'm going to arrest you, because people have been on the tracks before, seeing this white light approach them, and it's a train, and people have been killed. So the owner of the tracks, whoever they are, they're, whatever the name of the tracks are, gave explicit permission for the police officers to arrest anybody on the train track. So when I got there, I got out of my car, I got up as close as I could to the train tracks, and I'm kind of looking down. Wasn't there long enough to really make a thorough investigation. But there was one that I really want to go back to. We were there this year in Georgia. It's an area that is extremely, extremely rural. There's an old railroad crossing there. You can sit on the tracks all night and there's no trains come. Pretty much, they're very few and far between. It's oh darn, I can't think of the name of the town. It'll come to me in a second. But me and my friend Paul from England were out there, and the road that supposedly goes right to it was closed off. It said no trespassing, had the gate and everything. I said, well, let's see if we can find another way around it that would be on public property. We finally found it. It took a few minutes. We were kind of filming, taking pictures, shooting some video with my camera. I use a Samsung Galaxy S21 Ultra, and I'll tell you, this thing's got an amazing camera on it. It's even better than my digital. And I can shoot night shot on there too, which is really cool. And we didn't see anything. And we got home and I looked at the photographs, and there's a couple of lights on the train tracks. And I'm going, well, I was looking right down there and I didn't see any. So, we were both looking in opposite directions. I said, well, you keep an eye in that direction, I'll keep an eye in this direction so we don't miss anything. And I didn't see anything when I was videotaping or even taking pictures, but when I got them back, I got some lights on the tracks. So maybe that's what people are seeing.
That would make sense.
Yeah. But there are so many. There's the Hookerman light that used to be in southern New Jersey. There's the Joe Baldwin light that is not actually seen anymore. We kind of debunked the ones up there, and the Paulding light or the Watersmeet ghost light in Upper Peninsula, Michigan, kind of debunked that light. But there are some that really still kind of defy explanation. The Joplin spook light, the Marfa lights, the Brown Mountain lights. Those are ones that, if they're atmospheric conditions caused by temperature inversion layers, creating an area of reflection from lights further away, hitting that inversion layer and appearing like they're over the mountain ridge, the Brown Mountain Ridge. That is amazing in itself. But then how do you explain it for almost every night? People are out there and seeing something on what they call the 181 overlook. It's a beautiful pull-off. It's a scenic area. You can probably fit 30, 40 cars in there, literally. And you can just sit there in your car and just look across the Brown Mountains over there and to the town of Lenore and Hickory, which are on the other side of the Brown Mountains. And sometimes you'll see something. I was out there all night. I actually met Ray Manners, who at that time was the president of the International Fortean Organization. We became close friends, and then that next year I did a presentation at their conference on spook lights. And we were out there, and I saw, the whole time I was out there, I saw like one kind of bluish, purplish light very quickly, just a couple seconds, and that was it. Didn't see anything else when we were out there. But there are other places that you can also look from them. There's an area called Blowing Rock, which is a good vantage point. Wiseman's View is probably the best, but I'll tell you, you take your life in your hands going up that hill because there's no guardrails. You can really only fit like a car and a half, and you get too close to the edge, what's beginning to kind of wash out. Well, then you're going to end up at the bottom of that thing. When you finally get up there, it's an amazing view, but it's not worth the risk. And I said, no, let's it's bad enough going there during the daytime, which is what we did. I said, I can't see ourselves going up there at night and then coming back down. It's just too dangerous.
Right. Wow. Yeah, the Brown Mountains, there was a video from Small Town Monsters who do like the documentaries and stuff like that. Anyway, this one of their members, or team members, I should say, Alexander Petakov, he did I think it was for his series called Strange Places. He did one for the Brown Mountain Lights. Him and this other group known as the Hellbent Haulers, they went to see how many of the Brown Mountain Lights they could debunk.
Yeah.
And they think they debunked a few, but there's still some that they feel they just don't know how to debunk it, and just because of it being so mysteriously strange for some of them. Because otherwise they feel like, depending on where you are in the Brown Mountain area, you could very well be seeing people's headlamps, flashlights shining up in the sky, and it's been a little bit since I've seen the video, but basically they had to use that specific camera that saw the light that you could not see like with the naked eye, basically. But otherwise, the stationary, maybe blue and white and maybe purplish, more orange, I think, as I recall, are the ones that they were having a really hard time debunking there.
Well, you also got to remember too that there are roads that go through the Brown Mountain, and
that too.
You're not like right on top of it. You're probably a mile or so away, and sometimes you'll see. And it's most likely car headlights. They'll kind of like zigzag through there, going on the road, and they vanish. And sometimes, they'll start off white and they turn red. Well, white headlights, red tail lights. It's not.
Yeah, the brake white. Yeah.
Color. It's just that you're coming towards you. They're white, and all of a sudden, they make the turn. They turn red. It looks like, oh my God! I just turned from white to red. And it's when you get that combination, it's usually a car. And again, when there was a very famous investigation done in 1925, and it's in my book. It's almost verbatim that they did. I think his name was George Mansfield. That actually came out there to do a very, very thorough investigation of the lights. And he observed these lights with his associates from various locations, including Wiseman's View, including Blowing Rock and the 181 Overlook. And this was in 1925. They didn't have the equipment we have today. So, but most of what he was doing was visual. I mean, he did have some equipment, but if they were giving off EMF or something, they were just too far away for the equipment to pick up. It was very kind of rudimentary equipment back then. And he came to the conclusion that most of them were car headlights. There was a train that went through a couple of times, and they saw the train. And he said there were some other possible explanations too as well. But then he came to the end, and I can't remember exactly how many. I think it was either 8 or 10 or 12% that he could not figure out what they were. That they had no explanation from what he could see. So they were unexplained. Those 8 to 12% or whatever it was, which is a significant amount, considering that he was out there for several days observing these lights. And there have been other teams that have been out there since, but they run into the same problem that most people see, because you got car headlights, you got trains, you got, people. There are probably houses in there. I don't know if the lights are bright enough that you can see them, but the car headlights, definitely, when you got the high beams on, you're going through these dark roads, you can see that. And sometimes you can get these temperature inversion layer reflections from the other side of the mountain, because you can see, if you go a little bit further to your right, I'm not sure what direction it is, but as you 181 over, you can see the lights from the nearby town on the other side of the mountain. Now, that they're there, but then in some cases they can be reflected or refracted in a way that makes them appear on the mountain or hovering over the mountain. And it's a really weird phenomenon, but it has been proven to just be an atmospheric anomaly and nothing more.
Yeah, I remember that last time. I think that might have been the same area where we were talking about that, where it looked like it was reflecting off the mountain. And I think that was where I tried to give the example of, like, almost like you were, taking a light and shining it onto like a mirror to reflect back.
Yeah. I got some really good pictures I can share with you if you want to, insert them later or something.
Yeah, for sure.
Of the Brown Mountain, of Wiseman's View, which is an amazing view. Just the one picture you'll say, no way am I going up there. I mean, once was enough for me. I don't think anybody should go up there at night, seriously, unless they're going to camp up there and come back down the next day, because it's just too dangerous.
Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. But, I mean, we didn't really get anything, unfortunately. I mean, it was just, it was kind of like, we're going there with the possibility of seeing something. You never know when you're going to see something. And, we had some, back then, we had these old full-size VHS camcorders back then. So this is back in the 80s, the late 80s or something, before night vision came out. And some of these camcorders had what they call zero lux, which meant the camera could pick up some people under candlelight. You had to have some sort of illumination. Otherwise, all you saw was a pitch black screen, unless somebody came right in front of the screen or something, or in front of the camera, I should say. So it really wasn't worth even using, but I figured, well, let's just shine it out there, shoot it out there. And if something really bright comes through, it'll pierce the darkness and you'll see something. Now, again, maybe a skeptic looking at that say, oh, well, you just faked that. You just threw like a cigarette butt through there or something, or on fire, and did that, which is a legitimate excuse, a way to debunk it. I mean, the only thing I would say is I was there and I know I didn't do that. I mean, somebody would say, some trickery or something. And that's the thing with a lot of places that, that have this, have these legends and lore about them, is that there's always, 10, 15% of just, outright fraud or trickery that's taking place, because people want to say, hey, I got some footage and here it is, but it's really something you need to put in after later on, after effects, or maybe even at the time you were doing something, maybe holding a, I don't know, a sparkler or something, who knows, and making some sort of weird effect. And it really kind of makes it bad for everybody else that's legitimately out there trying to find it and really trying to, to document it. And I always tell people, I mean, if you go out to a location, there is not that great of a chance of you seeing something, but there's always a chance you could hear something, because, hearing anomalies are much more frequently encountered than visual. It takes a lot of energy to show up in a visual form, as an apparition, as a spook light, as a strange mist. Speaking of mist, I'll close it by saying the Beast of Bray Road investigation, forgot to mention this. We had all the cameras set up. We were going to stay out there a little bit longer. And then all of a sudden, and Joe, I mean, this is kind of his backyard, his neighborhood. He knows, what's normal out there. This fog, creepy fog, just rolled over the field. I go, well, that's it. I can't see anything in the field now. It's completely blanketed by fog. And it probably wasn't a supernatural fog. It just happened to be the temperature, the humidity, the dew point was just right to create the fog. But I mean, it literally rolled in like an ocean, like a tidal wave, and it just enveloped the whole field. And I said, well, at that point, I mean, it wasn't moving away. It was just sitting there. So I said, well, that's the end of our investigation. We can't see anything. But it was really creepy. He thought it was kind of creepy. He says he's never seen fog like that, just to suddenly appear and materialize that rapidly and blanket the whole area. I mean, if you went down the field, I bet you probably wouldn't be able to see it no more than about 12 inches or something. It was that thick.
Wow. So you could literally cut it with a knife, basically.
Yeah, pretty much so.
Yeah, we have something down here, south of Vermont. I just recently heard somebody say give it the name Woodbury, or sorry, not Woodbury, Woodford fog. They call it because it's so thick. So it makes me wonder if that might be somewhat what it's talking about.
Yeah.
So it's
one of these years, I'm going to make it up there to your neck of the woods. Stop by and maybe we can do a little bit of investigating together or something. But
well, we do have some. Speaking of paranormal, we do have Wilson Castle. If you've heard of that, that's I would totally recommend that place for sure, because I won't forget the first time I had a chance to investigate that with a team here. There was so much going on. That was the first place where, in my time of this paranormal stuff, that was the first place where I actually, in real time, like without having to go back to listen to a VIA and equipment or whatever, where it was a disembodied voice. And I was like, oh my God, like that was so cool. Because I know people keep saying that sometimes, like, oh, I heard this in disembodied voice. And I'm like, man, I wish I was that lucky. I have to go back and listen to it on the equipment, or unless I'm listening to it on a spirit box. Yes. And try to do my best there. But yeah, that place definitely rang through that night when we were there. So it was great.
Yeah, one of the places, I was kind of looking it up. I wasn't, I was listening to what you said, but I wanted to check this out real quick. They got this place
go for it.
In Stowe, Stowe, Vermont, called Emily's Bridge.
Yeah, that's the Crybaby Bridge. Yep.
The Crybaby Bridge, right? Yeah.
Man, I haven't been there since July 3rd of 2012. I haven't been back since. Bizarre place, that's for sure.
I know there's supposed to be a spook light. It's in my book, but I can't think of what it's called. But it's one of these bridges that you go on, and you either flash your lights 3 times, or you honk your horn 3 times, or you turn your car off.
That's not the Ghost Canyon Bridge, is it? The one in Illinois, up northern Illinois, maybe.
No, I'm talking about the one in Vermont.
In Vermont?
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder if that's the same one then.
But
maybe.
But it's got a name, and when we were doing some investigating this year with my friend who came and spent 3 weeks over, he's coming back a couple times this year. Again, we're going to do some more investigating. He must have a lot of money. He keeps flying back and forth from England all the time. But he's a great guy. And we went to a place in, I believe it was somewhere in the Carolinas, I believe. It was called Bloody Bride Bridge. Very famous place. And then there's one called Red Bridge. Now, the Red Bridge, the Bloody Bride Bridge, you really couldn't do an investigation. It was the main road, a lot of traffic back and forth. You wouldn't be able to do anything. But this Red Bridge was out in the middle of a rural road, and they call it Red Bridge because the bridge is actually red. And people see all kind of crazy stuff out there. Of course, we didn't have the time to do all that. I mean, we went to so many. The light, for instance, I was talking about earlier, it came to me. It's called the Screven Ghost Light, the one in Georgia.
Okay.
I always wanted to see. We finally saw the viewing location. I go, well, this would be a great place to investigate because you're not going to be disturbed at all out there for maybe hours upon hours. And we just brought a whole bunch of different high-powered binoculars. We were looking down the train tracks and trying to see if anything was there because these spook lights seem to show up along train tracks, long, narrow roads, sometimes near bodies of water, and by cemeteries. Those are the four things that most of these spook lights are seen at. We've actually seen, I haven't, but there have been numerous reports at Bachelor's Grove of ghost lights, blue ghost lights, red ghost lights, up and down the trail and everything. So what are the lights? I mean, are they just a weird anomaly, or are they spirits of the dead that don't always show up like we look now, but might show up as a light or as a mist or a shadow or something like that? Because there's various ways that spirits can make themselves known visually. It's not always like a perfectly solid flesh and blood image like you or I. It could be something that's kind of semi-transparent or multiple different ways. And lights can be one way. They're not orbs. That's different because orbs are something that most likely have natural explanations. They're bugs, insects, dust particles, stuff like that, rain droplets. These things you're actually seeing with your physical eye. These spook lights or ghost lights, and if you can get one. We did capture multiple times. We captured the spook light in Joplin in motion on video. We actually have that, which is pretty cool. And we got
that's the one where you had to zoom in, right?
Yeah, it's zoomed in to the point where you literally the light's not moving around. I'm trying to hold it perfectly still, and occasionally I'll do that. And when you zoomed in, it's like going all over the place. But the way these lights disappear is what really gets me. It's not that if there were a car coming down the road, if they went behind a hill or if they turned off the road, they would just suddenly completely wink out instantly because that's how it would be. But these lights don't do that. These lights fade out. You'll get them directly in the center of the field of vision of the camera, and you're recording it, and all of a sudden, they get dimmer and dimmer and dimmer, and they're gone. And then when they come back, they go brighter, 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 brighter. Now, that's weird because, a car is not going to do that. If a car tops the hill, it's going to be bright. Goes behind the hill, it's going to be dark. There's no fading of the light. These lights fade. At least the ones in Joplin do. I haven't actually had a chance to see too many other lights at other locations because, again, either the lights don't appear, they simply may be urban legends. They're tourist traps too. I mean, when I went out to investigate the light up in up in Watersmeet, Michigan, I call it the Watersmeet light. People call it the Paulding light because it's near Paulding. Everybody wants to take, it's my light. No, it's my light. In different cities. We went to eat at a restaurant, beautiful restaurant, great food. The placemat said, when in Watersmeet, come see the mystery light. And it had a map how to get there and everything. I said, well, can I get a, one that's not dirty? I want to take it as a souvenir. So it's a tourist trap. So when people go out there to investigate it and they claim that it's nothing more than a natural explanation, it kind of bursts their bubble, and sometimes they get angry. No, you're wrong. I actually had a newsletter I was doing at the time called Ghost Trackers Newsletter, and when I got done, I might have sent you a copy of that. If not, I should do that.
I don't remember seeing that. Nope.
But we actually went through a very scientific regime when we were doing this light, and when we got done, I sent a copy of that, Ghost Trackers newsletter to the Watersmeet Library, and they never put it out in publication.
No, they don't want to take away from the tourist trap.
Because it's literally car headlights and taillights. What happens is that you got a car coming towards you on the right lane, and it's white, and then all of a sudden, first of all, what happens? You might have a car going away from you. You see the taillights, and then if you look at a road from a distance, it looks like it converges. It's just an optical illusion. So the lights that are going away from you are red lights, and all of a sudden a car tops the hill and goes in front of that. It looks like it turns from red to white. Oh, look at this, changed colors. No, it's just two different cars going in the opposite direction. I actually have my brother go up on the hill, and I videotaped him, and I said, every 5 seconds, flash your brights off and on. And I captured them all the way down the hill, off, on, off, on, off, on. I said, well, there it is.
Yep, there it is.
I want to hear that, though. I mean, my friends that brought me up there, they were also part of the Ghost Research Society, Richard Kirshner, and I can't think of the other guy, I'm sorry, but they're both deceased. Right. They're no longer with us. And they said, it's a great phenomenon to look at, but I'll tell you before you get there, they're just car headlights. I said, I still want to see it for myself. Sure enough, that's what it was. But we had a great time out there. We spent like 2 days out there. Topographical maps, talking to forest rangers, eyewitnesses, plotting out the route, the elevation, everything. We went through the whole 9 yards, and to make sure we were doing a very scientific investigation. And I know we debunked it, and nobody wanted to hear about it, though. So
no, of course. I want to go back real quick to tell, because I didn't get a chance to jump in when you were talking about these spook lights. Sometimes they appear around, oh my God, swamps, water, cemeteries. Yep. So if you do come up here around Vermont, definitely check out the south area where Benetton and stuff is, because that's where it used to be the logging company. And then because they cut down all the trees and stuff, and they kind of put themselves out of their own business, they tried to turn that into a casino. That didn't work out because that got wiped out because of a flood that occurred. But trolley tracks were still there, and everything else. But because of, like we were talking about with some of this, is as time goes on, the railroad tracks or the trolley tracks, however you want to look at it, were taken out. However, there is some old railroad spikes on the old trail, from what I hear. And there's still some old foundations of where the buildings used to be, and etc. But I also want to add, because I think last time I tried to talk about this too, with like the different minerals. We have, I think, I don't have the note pulled up in front of me to clarify, but I think I read somewhere we have something like 7 or 8 mine or caves nearby this whole area. We have tons of swamp. So, I mean, that comes into play. We do mysteriously, I gotta reach out to this person. I gotta find the email address again, but there's a cemetery on the trail of Glastonbury that you can kind of find it, it's still part of Glastonbury. It's like around Woodford area, but still kind of interesting.
Yeah, that was one of the theories too, that a lot of people wanted to, even in the UFO community, would try to say that it's swamp gas. It's swamp gas, and swamp gas is a rare phenomenon. It's called phosgene, and what it is, it's a dull green kind of a greenish glow that's given off by decaying wood. And it's rare. It's in swampy areas. It can be ignited in some cases, because in some cases it can be mixed or be partly with methane, which is kind of flammable. And so you get these kind of like eruptions around swampy areas. I have never seen swamp gas. I mean, it's just such a rare phenomenon.
It sounds like it, because I can't say I've seen it myself.
Yeah. I mean, it's like St. Elmo's fire. St. Elmo's fire is used to be balls of energy, plasma, that would be seen on the masts of tall sailing ships during thunderstorms. And basically, all it is almost like a ball lightning, which again, ball lightning is extremely rare.
Yeah.
And scientists have actually been able to produce ball lightning. There's a very good video. Just kind of Google like ball lightning scientific experiment or something like that.
Yeah, laboratory maybe. Yeah.
You'll actually see them producing this, and you'll see this lightning ball literally come out, bounce on the floor, and go shoo, like that. But it's very short-lived. I mean, you're talking about a few seconds tops. And there was a gentleman from the area around Joplin, and I got his book that he claimed that the Joplin spook light was nothing more than ball lightning. And I disagree, because ball lightning is even more rare than saying that there is such a thing as a spook light, because it's just an extremely rare. The atmosphere, the charge, the negative, positive ions got to be just perfectly balanced for something like that to happen, and it's short-lived, a couple of seconds. These lights used to be in Joplin would often be seen from dusk till dawn, almost all night. You know, not continuously, but there'd be long intervals where you wouldn't see anything, but there'd be long intervals you would see things. And the last time I went up there with my friend, he was so disappointed he never saw anything. But he said, I was just happy to be in an area that was really kind of filled with mystique about this light since 1881. I mean, that's when the first lights were seen. They thought that they were either campfires in the distance from local Indians, to a report of two Indian braves from different tribes that they wanted to marry, but they said they couldn't do it. So they ran away. A warring party was sent after them. They went to the highest peak called the Devil's Promenade, jumped over, and now these lights you see are their spirits still floating around. There's also this swamp gas from mysterious mines in the area. There are no mines. There are no swamps in Joplin. I don't know where they get that. So I've debunked so many. The headlight theory seems to be one that people want to say it's the reason. I have a very great photograph that I shot with a still camera. You'll see two car headlights coming over the hill. Definitely car headlights, and right above it is a little white light. And that's got to be the Joplin spook light. So you got two cars. You got a car, because you can literally in binoculars define two lights. Got a picture, and then above this car coming down the hill is the spook light, and they don't see it because they're traveling towards us. I got that picture. It's an amazing picture.
I wonder if that's the one where I was asking you last time if that was a spotlight that you could plug into your cigar lighter. I wonder if that was the one that I was asking that about. I think.
Yeah, we brought that along too, a cigarette lighter adapter. At that time, I think it was only 1 million candle power, but that was still quite a lot. And we were just trying to experiment to see. The road that light is seen on begins at the border of Missouri on one side and Oklahoma. So the light's actually seen in Oklahoma. And as you travel down what they call E350, they call the Spook Light Road. It's 2.5 miles till the end, and then it goes to a sharp 90-degree angle turn and goes off in that direction. People say, well, you're seeing cars from I-44, the interstate. Wrong. I-44's elevation is below the horizon of what you're seeing. So the cars are going this way, and you're looking over there's no way you can see the cars from a lower elevation. Now, we went through all these different scenarios.
You mean from the higher elevation? Sorry.
So we're at a higher elevation, and these I-44s below the visible horizon.
Okay.
So there's no way you can see those cars going back and forth. Yeah. And if you did, they'd be going this direction, not coming towards you.
Okay. Yeah. Is your dinner ready?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I'll send you some when I get off. I'll send you some of these pictures. Feel free to use them anywhere throughout the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And I'll try to point them out. I'll try to say, well, this is the one we talked about, that the car's coming over the hill and you got the light over it. I got the best photograph ever on a camera on a tripod with a time exposure. I opened the lens for like maybe 20 seconds and closed it. And you see cars parked along the road, and here's the light coming over the hill. And it's orange, and it's the best photograph I took.
Oh my God. Yeah, that sounds awesome. God, I'll have to look at your book now, because you said that one that you're talking about in Vermont or whatever is in your book.
Yes, it is.
I'm trying to think the one, because
or it may be the one I was going to put in book number 2. So I mean, look in the Vermont section and get back to me. Send me an email or something. I can even look at my book too when I get.
Because I'm trying to think, because the only time I've heard anything about honking 3 times is Emily's Bridge.
Yeah, that might be it. That's probably.
It could very well be.
Yeah.
All
right, so nice talking to you, my friend.
Yeah, you too, Dale. Thank you for the last minute thing. I know we kind of went all over the place, though.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the thing with the paranormal. I mean, you can go in all different directions and be stretched in all different directions.
That's right, dude. I appreciate you knowing the West, man. I still want to talk to you, though, about your spirit photography, though, because like I said, that doesn't get talked about much anymore.
Sure. Yeah, we can set up another time. I'm always available.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it. And once again, I want to thank Dale Kaczmarek for his time, especially since this is his second time coming back on. Yeah, we kind of did go all over the place, but next time we hopefully have Dale on, we will be talking about his spirit photography and the spirit photography in general, just because, like I have mentioned a few times now, that it doesn't seem to be one of those talked about subjects anymore when it comes to the unknown. So stay tuned for that, and otherwise, everybody, stay safe out there during the winter storms. And if we happen to not have any winter storms because of how this is being recorded as of this time frame, well, I hope you enjoy your time out there. And spring can't come soon enough, so we can get back out there and do what we love to do, trying to find answers for the paranormal.